How are you? Thank you. You look fantastic, and you look even better than you did earlier. Well, let's rock and roll. We have kind of gone with you, in our times with you, we've gone backwards to frontwards. What do I mean by that? We started off yesterday by talking about you have to persevere. If you want to succeed in anything in life, friends, we live in a world that's full of quitters. People quit everything. One of my favorite days of the year is January 2nd. It's when January 2nd, because it's when all the people, I go to the health club a lot, it's when all the new people who've made a New Year's resolution come in to start a new physical exercise program. They come in with their new shorts, their new t-shirt, their new shoes. They are fired up because they've made a decision to change their physical life and they're going to get started. And I love them because they go out to the weight machine and and they feel, oh, it feels good. And they're excited. Great, I love to see it. My next favorite day of the year is January 3rd, when I see some of them come back, and the ones who come back crawl in, because on January 2nd, they were simply overweight and out of shape. On January 3rd, they're overweight, out of shape, and really sore. But the reality is this, we live in a world full of quitters, so if you want to succeed, you have to persevere. That was last night. Today, we went backwards then to say you have to have a plan on meeting people and moving product, because people times product equals profit. You have to have a plan in place to do that. And I encourage you to determine how many people am I going to say hi to, how are you, how many people am I going to do that per day, per week, develop into your plan. Now we want to go to the very front end of it, because the other two things won't matter if you don't have the front. Now we're really at the starting point. Because here's the question. Have you ever looked at two different teams? One had it, one didn't. For example, in sports, have you ever looked at two football teams? One team had it, the other team didn't have it. Have you ever gone to two churches? You walk in immediately and you just know, wow, this church has it. You walk in another church and you go, they don't have it. Or have you seen two couples eating out at a restaurant and you realize, you look at one couple, they're holding hands, and you go, they have it. Another couple just eating, not saying anything, they don't have it. Have you looked at two people with businesses? One has it. Cindy said enthusiasm, you do. Others don't have it. See, what is the it? You have to have it. That is the key to your success, because if you don't have it, it doesn't matter if you have a plan or persevere. It is the key, and that's what I want to talk about with you for a few minutes. What is it? You have to have it. Here is what you have to have. It is you have to have a clear, defined purpose in your life. A clear, defined purpose, a vision, a dream that is so clear to you. Because the reality is this. We live in a world where most people don't have one. And so let's talk about what it means to have a clear, defined purpose, a clear, defined vision, a clear, defined dream. And what I want to share with you real quick is 3 attitudes and 3 ways on how to get a dream. 3 attitudes and 3 ways on how to get to a dream. The attitude, first of all, is this. All of us have 3 things in our life. We have our past, here's our past, we have our present, and we have our future. Here's where you and I are today. Reality is not bad. Whether you have 0 people here with you or a number of people here, that's not good or bad. It's simply reality. It's simply reality. But here is the truth about reality. Where you and I are at is a result of the things we have or haven't done in the last 5 years of our life. Where you are physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally in your marriage, it's a result of what we have or haven't done. It's simply reality. But now here's the good news. Where you and I wind up 5 years from now is a result of what? What we do in our habits that from now on. So there are 3 things in attitudes we have to understand. Let me start with the past. Here's the attitude you have to have. You have to forgive and forget the past. Forgive and forget the past. Do not focus on your past. So many people, that's all they can think about. How long have I been in the business? How many people have we started and haven't done anything? How many times have we tried and it hasn't worked? How many conferences have we come to? And it's the past. Here's a thought for you. Remember the lesson that you learned, but forget the experience. Remember the lesson, but forget the experience. You maybe heard of the guy that got a call from the doctor. And the doctor said, well, I've got bad news and I got worse news. The guy goes, well, what kind of choice is that? He says, well, what do you want? He says, well, give me the bad news. He says, you have cancer, It's terminal. There's nothing we can do. Maybe you have a week to live. That's it. The guy goes, that's the bad news? What's the worst news? The doctor said, you have the worst case of Alzheimer's I've ever seen in my life. The guy goes, wow. Well, at least I don't have cancer. And sometimes you have to live that way. You have to learn to forget the past, forget the hurts, forget the things that didn't go your way, forget the goals you set that didn't get met. Today is the first day of what? The rest of your life. That is all we have. That's all we have. So with the past, forgive it. Forget it. Remember, listen, but maybe it's forgiving some people in the past, some people that disappointed you, some people that you poured yourself into that for whatever reason maybe misused that, or whatever the case may be. Could be upline, down, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. Forgive and forget the past. It's the only way for you to move forward. Because the second reality is what we call our present. And here's the attitude for our present. And I'm going to ask my friend Preston to join me on stage to help me illustrate this. Preston, come on up here. Here's the attitude for your present. Stop begrudging what you can't or don't have. Stop begrudging what you can't or don't have. Because here's what happens. So many people never move forward in life because of the past. They always constantly are trying to go back to it. Forget it. But then here's the next thing. They carry with them all the things they can do if only they don't have. So, Preston, you ready to help me?
Yeah.
Here we go. Thank you. Because here's the reality. I think that's right there. Okay, there we go. Here's the reality in life. All of us have a present. All of us have stuff that is just a part of our life. It's a part of who we are. And it's stuff that we can't necessarily control. So, for example, let's say that you wanted to be a singer. You wanted to be a singer, but here's a reality. You have no arms. You have no arms. You want to be a singer, but you have no arms. You want to play music, but you have no arms. Your name is Tony. Well, here's the reality, Tony. You don't have any arms. Face the reality. The reality is that you cannot play. Face the reality. Maybe your reality is the fact that you want to be a speaker. You want to be a speaker. Is my speaker on? Oh, okay. How's this? There we go. Thank you. So you want to be a speaker. That's your dream. That's your dream. But your present reality is that you have cerebral palsy. And when you talk, it sounds like this. That's your reality. Well, everyone would say, well, then forget being a speaker. You can't do that. That's just what you have. You can't do it because of your present situation. Maybe it's the fact that you got unfairly treated or even put in a spot where it wasn't your fault. That could be like Joe. Joe got in a case where he was framed. He was accused of something he didn't do, got thrown in prison. It wasn't his fault. He didn't do it, but he got framed. It's the reality of the present. You got to stop focusing on what you can't do or what you don't have. Maybe it's a situation that you love sports, but you especially love baseball. Baseball is your sport, and you love it so much. And here's the reality. You are in a farming accident that takes off 2 of your fingers on your throwing hand. Here's the reality. You ain't playing baseball, my friend. It's a reality. See, so many people not only focus on their past, but they focus on the present, what we don't have. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm whatever the case may be. And here's my situation. And here's what takes place. You carry that with you. Let me ask you, how many of you think that having pressed on my back, to be honest, possibly looks a little silly? You can be honest. Okay. How many of you think that at some point in time, if we kept doing this, it could move from being silly to looking flat, stupid? How many think it's already there? Here's my observation. This is how you look. Every day when you wake up and you decide to put on the first thing in the morning all the things that you don't have, all the resources you don't have access to, all the things you can't do because of your present situation, your circumstance, and you carry it with you all day. And you wonder why you can't move to your future, why you can't focus on your dream, because all you can carry with you all day long like baggage all over the place is your current situation. Does this make sense to you? This is how you look. Okay, I'm going to let you go down, bro.
Sounds good.
Give Preston the hand. I think we're good. Which says that you stop begrudging what you don't have and what you can't do. which then moves you to the third attitude, which says in your future, start believing in what you can do. Start believing what you can do. How much does God need to work a miracle? He doesn't need much, my friends. What he needs is your belief. Your belief that I have enough. Whatever I have is enough. So, you don't have any arms, but your desire is to play music. Well, then what do you have? Start with what you do have. And if you're Tony, then you have feet. And play, and use your feet, Tony, to play. And if you ever look up on YouTube Tony Melendez, you will find a singer and a guitar player that is unbelievable, that plays with his toes. Unreal, because he used what he had. Maybe you want to be a speaker, and you can't because you have cerebral palsy. Well, then go ahead, and whatever you can say, say it, David Ring. How many have heard of David Ring? And if you're David Ring, go and talk like this. But say it, David. Say what's on your heart. And David Ring is one of the most incredible speakers and communicators I've ever heard and that you'll ever heard. That is all you need, is focus on what you can do. What can you do? Do it then. God will do the rest. That's all you need. You might say that, man, I was framed. I can't do anything. Well, then hang on and just do what's right in your situation, Joe. And that's Joseph in the Bible, who was sent to prison unfairly, falsely, but he did what he could do for years and years and years in prison, saying it'll come back to him. And in one moment, he was transformed to the second in command of the most powerful nation in the world at that time. You might say, I know, but I want to play baseball, but I can't throw. That was my dream. I lost it. Well, then use what you have. Use your three fingers. And Mordecai Brown simply wanted to play baseball, so he did with three fingers. And one day as he was playing, a coach saw him throw from third base to first base with his three fingers, and he saw what the ball did. And he said, come over here. Can you do that to the catcher? Throw that to the catcher. He did. And Mordecai Brown, with three fingers, pitched himself into the Baseball Hall of Fame. See, friends, you have enough. You have enough. But in order to have it, you have got to let go of your past. Forgive, forget it. I pray that this weekend you forgive and forget your past. If you've been in length of time, this is the first day of the rest of your life. The past is gone. I'll remember the lesson. I'm going to forget the experience. No longer will I focus on what I don't have, what I don't have access to. I'll focus on what I do have, and we're going to move forward. That is the key for you to move forward in getting it, a vision, a purpose, something that people want to be around. So let me move real quickly to how do you get a dream? How do you get a dream? See, I believe this with all my heart. There are three things that all of us have as we come into business. Let me illustrate through my story. When I saw this business, we had nothing. You heard a little bit about our story. But I got actually very excited. But the three things we have, we have a self-image, our attitude about ourselves. We also have circumstances. That's the stuff we're going through in life. And we also have a dream or a vision for our life. All three of us have these three things. Here's what I'm going to ask you. I believe of those three things, one of them is equal for all of us. Two of them are different. One is equal, two of them different. Let me ask you, which one do you think is equal for all of us? Self-esteem, circumstances, or dream? I'm going to believe it's circumstances. Now, here's what I mean by that. When I saw this business, my self-esteem, attitude-wise, was very little from a financial standpoint because we're broke. How many know that when you're broke so long, you become broke in your thinking? That's where I was. Now, we did have some goals and dreams, some things that we wanted, but we knew we couldn't because. But we also had circumstances. Now, you and I don't have all the exact same circumstances, but we all have circumstances. Help me out, throw them out. What are some circumstances you see that people have when you show them the business or reasons they can't pursue their dream? Okay, let's just write some of these down. Time. What else? Money. Okay, they don't have a vehicle to get them there. Okay, what else?
They don't know anybody.
Okay, they don't know anybody. What else? Okay, just their finance. I'll put that in finances. What else?
Children.
They have children. They might have a spouse. That is not positive. Could be very real. What else? Health is a situation. How about age? Could be. What else? They simply don't like people. Okay? What else?
They live in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, it's location. How about fear? Would fear be one? Fear of what? Fear of everything. How about fear of failure? How about fear of people? Make sense? Okay, could be fear of success. We all have, how many of you have any of those? Well, there's always a part. Now, for example, when Cindy and when I saw this business, I knew when I sat down to see this business, I was not going to be interested. I knew up front. Why? She told me before I left I wasn't going to be interested. Because I was already having no time. I was at the church 75 to 80 hours a week. I was also taking 3 classes towards my master's. Kids, she was working. We had no time. I also knew I had no time because of the fact that not only was Cindy not really interested, but we had no money. I knew that. And yet what happened when we saw the business, the guy shared and said, Reed, what would happen if? And he started to build this. He said, Reed, what would happen if you had enough money coming in where you could pay off some of your bills? What would happen if you were able to give, he said, would you do anything back with your furniture? I said, yeah, I'd give it all back to my relatives. That was our furniture. Man, what would happen if? What would happen if? Then he said, what would happen if you could take your family to Hawaii and Disney? And I went, whoa! I was fired up at the end of the plan. Why? Because even over my circumstances, I could see part of a dream. I got excited about the possibilities. He said, great, I'm going to come back this night. He said, now don't talk to anybody. Okay. So I go and I call my best buddy. Hey, I saw this opportunity. It's great. It's I'm fired up. Well, what's it about, Reed? Well, it's kind of like, well, how's it work? Well, it's Amway. Oh, yeah, Reed. I've seen that before. People don't know. The guy calls me back. I said, well, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Have you ever had that call? Now, did I still have a dream? I still did. But what was the only thing I could see as I looked this way? That's all I could see was my circumstances. That's all I could see. He said, you talked to somebody, didn't you? Yeah. He said, listen, I need to get my stuff back, but you promise you'd listen to the audios. Would you listen to the audios? Okay, I'm a man of my word. I'll listen to the audios. I'll listen to the audios. And the guys talked about, man, traveling. And they talked about, again, having the wife free. And they talked about other stuff. And I went, whoa! Fired up. We're going to do this thing. Great. Let's have a meeting. Great. So I call my first guy. Hey, what are you doing Thursday night? Hey, I want to come over and take a look at the business. What's it about? Well, it's kind of like, you've seen stuff like, oh, you really? Oh, Do any of you relate to that at all? And see, here's what I believe, is we spend so much of our time on our past and our present that we can't control. You can't control it. Have you ever heard somebody say, as soon as I get this, then I'm going to hammer it? As soon as my job, I'm going to hammer it. What happens when you take care of a circumstance? Is it only 1-for-1 exchange? I usually get 2 more circumstances for every one I've ever encountered. You have no control. The only 2 things that you and I can control is building our attitude. And here's what happened. We started to build our dream, started to build our attitude by listening to CDs, going to the conferences, reading books, started building that to the point where it didn't matter. This stuff was all there. Friends, that will be there until the day you die. So how do you build a dream that is greater than your circumstances? Let me give you a quick 3 ideas. Number 1, you have to write it down on paper, specific and in detail. You have to write it down on paper, specific and in detail. Here's what changed my life. We went to a conference. Our whole group went with us. Our whole group stayed in our bedroom. It was Cindy and I. And a speaker, was actually Tim Foley, said something just before the end of the conference. That's why you always stay for everything. You always stay for everything. It was the last thing he said on Sunday afternoon. Cindy had gotten sick during the weekend. We actually had to fly her home. It was about 12 hours away from the conference. But here's what he said before he left. He said, man, I'm going to give you one last thought. And if you'll do it, it'll change life. But he didn't say it that way. He said this. And if for the men who have the guts to do it, it'll change their life. Now, when he used that word, guts, to do it, I caught my ear. Okay? And then he repeated it. He said, now, to be honest, a bunch of you guys won't do it. Because a bunch of you guys don't have the guts to do it. But for the guys who have the guts to do it, it'll change your life. Well, at that point, come on, bring it. And he said this, if you have the guts to write 100 dreams on a piece of paper, and look at it every morning and every night, it'll change your life if you have the guts to do it. And that was the end of the conference. Cindy had already flown home. I'm by myself. I'm going to drive 12 hours back now by myself. And I went, okay, you dog, scumball, dirtbag of the earth. Okay, I'm going to take you up on that. Here's what I did. I took a pad of paper, and I thought, okay, I got interstate, 2 lanes, 2 shoulders. I got basically 4 lanes to work with. Okay? And I started writing down anything that came to my mind. I would do, go, see, have, experience, help. How many of you have a list of 100 dreams on a piece of paper written down? Okay, this is your start. For any of you who didn't raise your hand, this is your start. And here's what I'm going to tell you. If you got the guts to do it, it'll change your life. Now, here's what happened to me. It's going to happen to you. If you've not, this is what's going to happen to you. The first 20 are just going to roll like this. Just going to roll like this. Maybe first 25, maybe 30. And then you stop. And then you go, holy cow. What? Okay, more fishing, more hunting, more cars. And it just starts, but it has to be written down specific. Because I had to have 100, I started writing things down I knew I would never get. I said, put down there, I said, go to Europe. Take Cindy to Europe. I also put down there, we were 3% in the business, 100 points. I said, I wanted to speak for 2 different speakers that were on that stage that weekend. I said, I wanted to speak for them. Because I had to think of 100, okay? I just put anything I could think of on that piece of paper. And I started to read them every morning, every night. Now, why in the morning? How long does it take you to get some negative in your day? Some of you don't have to roll out of bed, do you? It starts your day. Why at night? Because does this ever stop? You watch a hemorrhoid commercial before you go to bed, it's there all night. It is. I'm telling you, all night. I started reading every morning, every night going, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. Does it work? I'll tell you this. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring it. I'd like to show you my list of 100. My original list of 100, I have checked off 87 off my original list of 100. I remember a few years back, got a call from one of the 2 guys that I said want to speak for. Said, hey, quick question for you. What are you doing these couple weeks in June, coming up about 4 months from now? I said, well, nothing we probably couldn't work out. What are you thinking about? He says, well, I and this other guy, we work together in Europe. We're wondering if we could send you and your wife to Europe and speak for our teams in Europe. Let me pray about that. Yes. I mean, friends, I could go on. If you'll have the guts to do it, it'll change you. You have to have it written down, specific on paper. Now, this is hard for men. Men don't want to do this. Women are saying men don't want to do this. Women, forgive us, it's part genetics. You know why it takes 1 million sperm but yet only 1 egg to conceive? Because none of those guys will ever stop and ask for directions. Ever. It's just part of our DNA. Second thing on getting a dream. Second thing on getting a dream. It has to be visualized. You have to put pictures up all over the place. If I walked into your house, would I instantly know what your purpose is, what your dream is, your vision is? Would I know instantly? How many pictures do you have up all over the place? We started putting pictures up all over the place. We wanted to go to Hawaii. I said, go to Hawaii. I knew we couldn't afford it, but all of a sudden, what happened is they promoted a Hawaii trip that we could win. I called up every travel agency and said, can you send us stuff on Hawaii? Postman hated us. Man, just magazine. We put over 200 pictures of Hawaii up in our house. Everywhere. You lift up the lid to the toilet, there was a waterfall in Hawaii. Honest God. Because our present 800 square foot home was so defeating to us, we had to give a vision. We put it up all over. I remember the first time our babysitter came to the house after we put those pictures up. She walks in the room, she goes, are you guys going to Hawaii? It was all over the place. Well, we've been to Hawaii 5 times. Does it work? I believe so. What is it you want? Put pictures of it. How many of you meant one toys? How many meant one Harley Davidson? Any Harley Davidson fans? Put pictures up. Put pictures up. For 3 years on my little Honda Civic, I put a picture of a Cadillac sedan, dark blue with dark blue leather interior, right on the front steering wheel. I drive home late at night, little Honda Civic. And I'd put the dome light on because South Dakota, there's nobody else on the road that time. And I'd look at that picture while listening to an audio. Just someday, that's what I'm driving. That's what I'm driving. You have to put pictures up. It has to be specific and detailed. A list of 100. Has to be visualized. Number 3, you have to touch it. You have to touch it. You have to live in it, be in it. We would go back all over again and look at the cars. That Cadillac, I'd go to the Cadillac dealership. Every week, I went to the Cadillac dealership for 3 years and sat in a Cadillac sedan, the same exact one that was on the steering wheel. The dealers all knew me. Sorry, here I am. I just wanted to smell the car. Oh, how many know it smells different than a youth pastor's car? Oh, my. Totally different. Okay? You have to live in it. Does it work? I don't know. I'll tell you this. A few years ago, our upline team ran a promotion where they gave 2 leases of Cadillacs away for people, and you had to have so much at a conference. There were 10 people up there. One of them won an automatic one because they'd won the qualification. And Jerry Meadows, our upline, said this. He said, hey, you pick the vehicle, what vehicle you want. And I remember the gal pointing to the red Cadillac with the red leather interior. I turned to Cindy, I said, it's ours. Because what's the other one? Dark blue with a dark blue leather interior, the same I'd looked at for 3 years and sat in for 3 years. And I remember that the gal, he fanned the other cards out, and he said, pick one other person. And they pulled our name, and we won it. Friends, does it work? I promise you it works. But you have got to have an attitude that says, I forgive and forget the past. I'm not going to stop focusing on what I do or don't have. I'm going to look ahead, and I'm going to put a dream in front of me all the time. How many of you want it bad enough that you'd be willing and have the guts to put 100 dreams on a piece of paper? Would you? Okay? If you do, then you're going to have it. I'm going to have Cindy share a couple more thoughts with you, and I'm going to close off with one story.
Aren't you glad you came today? Aren't you glad you had the guts to put the money and buy the ticket and get in the car and get here today? So we're proud of you. You know, I told you earlier that I love kids. And here's a little kid story. It says a father was on the beach with his children. The 4-year-old son ran up to him, grabbed his hand, led him to the shore where a seagull lay dead in the sand. He said, Daddy, what happened to him? The son asked. He died and went to heaven, the dad replied. The little boy thought for a moment and then said, did God throw him back? Isn't that cute? You know, kids know things have a purpose. Do we know we have a purpose? Do you know what your purpose is? This is John Maxwell's book again, Leadership Gold. I love how he explains success in here. He says 3 things. This is success. This is how he defines success. Number 1, knowing your purpose in life, what we're just talking about. Number 2, he says, growing to your maximum potential. What we just got done talking about earlier this morning, reading and listening and attending and growing. Number 3, sowing seeds that benefit others. Is that this business? Knowing your purpose in life, growing to your maximum potential, sowing seeds that benefit others. I love that definition of success. Now, the question is, what is your purpose? So I'm going to talk about 5 things that are going to help you determine whether you have a dream and whether you are chasing your purpose. This is number 1. Dreamers are passionate about what they do. Dreamers are passionate about what they do. How do you know if you are passionate about what you do? This is a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it to you. I want you to think about it. If you were given 1 week to live, what would you do starting tomorrow, knowing you only had 1 week to live? I think you would find something you are passionate about. Am I right? Definitely. This is what he says. He says, things don't satisfy long term. Stuff doesn't ensure lifelong happiness. Dreams only focused on things will surely die. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with dreaming about the Cadillac or the lake home that they showed or vacationing. But the thing is, how do you picture yourselves in those? That's how you're going to connect yourself to that dream. How do you see yourself? Who you're going to be spending time with in that Cadillac? Who are you going to be doing things with at your lake home? What are you going to be doing in the lake? You've got to picture, like we just talked about, you've got to picture yourselves in that. What's passionate to me? As you can tell, we are into creating memories, which is why we love to travel, which is why we do a lot of it, and we love to experience it with our family. We love that. One of my major dreams is because we live in South Dakota. We're in January and February where it's cold, as I want to sneak and get out of Dodge for those 2 months. Anybody else feel like I do? I know it gets cold up here. One of the places we've been to is Destin, Florida. Have you ever been to Destin, Florida? Anybody? Destin, Florida? Oh my God, isn't it gorgeous? Oh my goodness, it is just gorgeous. Here was a home that was for sale in Destin, Florida. This is a fabulous open kitchen with custom cabinets, brushed granite countertop, top-of-the-line appliances, an island in the center of the kitchen. This is the part I like. A spacious master suite that has a private sitting area facing the beach. Comes complete with a marble bath and glass tile shower. Enter the elegant home through European-style front doors. I love this part. 4-car garage with 2 spaces heated. Florida. Go figure. This gated entrance home sits on over an acre facing the beach. How cool is that? Creating memories. So picture yourself in there. If you would have a dream of going to a place like that, can you picture bringing your children, bringing your grandchildren, having all the sand toys, building the sand castles, having roasted marshmallows? You got to picture yourself in there. What is that going to be like? So my dream is creating memories. The other part is leaving a legacy. And yes, leaving a legacy of finances. But do you know legacy starts now? What kind of impact are you leaving for your kids to talk about? What kind of message are you leaving for the people in your business to talk about? Legacy starts today with how you are living your life. One of my favorite movies is The Last Samurai. I don't like the fighting and the guts and the killing that goes into that movie, but I love the very end of the movie where Tom Cruise presents the Last Samurai sword to the Chinese emperor. And the Chinese emperor says to him, "Tell me, how did he die?" And Tom Cruise says, "Let me tell you how he lived." I don't want people to ask about how I die. I want them to ask me about how I lived. What impact are you leaving? What message are you giving? Do you know how we know if you're chasing your dream or not, if you're chasing your purpose? If right now on these screens we could take the thoughts that went into your head all month and project them on this screen, would people know what your purpose is? It's kind of scary to think about, isn't it? Even scary for me to think about. I said this at home, and one of the gals said, we'd probably have to delete some scenes, she said, when we talked about this. But think about that. If we are passionate about our dream, are you pursuing that? Okay, so that's number one. Number two, dreamers have a sense of urgency with a spirit of expectancy. Dreamers have a sense of urgency with a spirit of expectancy. So, sense of urgency. How many of you are procrastinators? I am. Heck, I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like doing things I don't like to do. But dreamers have a sense of urgency. They don't procrastinate. They have a do-it-now attitude. Well, the other part, a spirit of expectancy. Sometimes when you're in this business for a while, you're thinking, well, they're not going to get in. She's not going to buy a product. Why am I doing this anyway? You ever done that? You do not have a spirit of expectancy. If you are passionate, you have a spirit of expectancy. But even more important, I think you need to have a spirit of expectancy about yourself. Are you on time? Are you a person of your word? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? So be expectant about yourself also. Number three, dreamers don't quit when times get tough. Dreamers don't quit when times get tough. No one is exempt from difficult times. We all have crud happen to us. We all have crap that happens in our life. That is life. The difference is, if you have a dream and a purpose, you don't refer to those times as hard times or bad times. You refer to those times as times that have made me stronger, if you allow it to. So don't look at those hard times as bad times. Look at those times to allow you to grow as a person and to become stronger. Number four, dreamers believe they have what it takes to achieve their dreams. You know what the key word is there? Dreamers believe. They believe they have what it takes to achieve their dreams. I love this quote. Successful people are just ordinary people who have developed a belief in themselves and what they do. So successful people are just ordinary people like you and I who have developed that belief in ourselves and what we do. So how do we develop that? I heard a speaker say this one time, and I will never forget this. That's why you never miss a function. She said, belief is not a feeling. Belief is a decision. Isn't that good? Yeah. So when you get up in the morning and say, I just don't feel like believing today. No, you decide you're going to believe today. That's what successful people do. They decide they are going to believe today. So how do you get that belief? That's why you come here this weekend. Has this conference built belief in you so far? Am I? Yes. That's why you come here. And the other part is listen to what people say to you. What do people compliment you on? Take those little, for me, I don't like being in front of people. I don't consider myself a leader. I don't consider myself a salesman. But you know what? I am very good about following instruction. I am very good about listening to our leaders. I'm very good about paying attention. Those are little things, aren't they? But if you just do those little things, they will pay very big dividends. Zig Ziglar says, if you can't do great things, well, then do small things in a great way. Can you all do that? You can all do small things in a great way. Number 5, dreamers control their thoughts. I'm going to say it again. What do? We control our thoughts. We read and we listen, right? That's how we control our thoughts. We read and listen. We have the good things going in. I love this quote too. When we are foolish, we want to conquer the world. When we are wise, we want to conquer ourselves. Isn't that good? When we are foolish, we want to conquer the world. When we are wise, we want to conquer me. And we want to conquer ourselves. That's why we read and listen and attend. Because you know what? When we feel good about ourselves, then we are willing to give to others. But we need to read and listen and conquer ourselves. Churchill said it best. This is what he said. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Isn't that good? We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So let's go back to John Maxwell and finish off here. John Maxwell, when he defines success, number 1, know your purpose. The 5 things I just talked about, review those, go over those, figure out what you are passionate about, know your purpose. Number 2, grow to your maximum potential. Read and listen and conquer yourself. Get better yourself. And then sow seeds that benefit others. And if you're willing to do those things, you will have a very, not only successful life, but a very successful business. It has been my pleasure, my most pleasure spending this day with you. And here's Reed.
How many of you know and believe that your best days are in front of you? Absolutely they are. You have to believe that. You know, it's interesting, when you have a dream and you have something that you want, it doesn't something you just put a picture in there once. You have to live it over and over again. Let me tell you one quick story. We were speaking at a conference, and a guy came up afterwards and said, can I ask you a question? He said, I'm frustrated, and I've asked my upline if I could just ask you a quick question. And I said, well, that's fine. He said, I've been in the business a number of years. I hit 7,500 points in the business 10 years ago, have not hit it since, and I'm frustrated. How many of you think that would be evidence for frustration? Okay. I said, well, so that's a good point. I said, I don't know anything about your business. Let me ask you, are you drawing circles? He said, yes, I am. I said, okay. Can I see your calendar? He said, absolutely. So what he did is he pointed out his calendar, and I said, well, let me see your calendar. And on his calendar, he had it like this, and it was all gridded out. And then I said, okay, great, show me the plans. He had the plans circled out, and there was about 8 for the previous month. Okay, so he wasn't a go-getter, but his buddy, I said, has this been pretty consistent for you? He said, yeah. I said, okay, well, you're not a go-getter, but at least you're doing something. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. When in the last month did you go out and physically touch a dream? Physically touch it, not just look at the piece of paper, but physically touch it. He said, here. I said, what'd you look at? He said, at home. I said, okay. Any other time that month? He said, no. I said, oh. Well, then, to be honest with you, I don't think you should be very discouraged at all. I said, because I don't know what your business is making, but probably, even if you've backed off of $7,500, what you have, you're probably making maybe $800,000, $1,200 a month. And he said, about that. I said, well, to be honest, I don't think that's bad money for working one time a month. And he said, well, wait a minute. He said, I've done this, and outside of that, I've had some phone sessions and follow-ups and that. And he said, I've done that. I said, no. You worked one time last month. Now, I said, $800, $1,000 for working one time? That is pretty good money, my friend. You shouldn't complain about that. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, here's what I want you to understand. This is the work of the business. The work of the business is not meeting people. It is not giving a phone call. It is not showing the plan. It is not following up. The work of this business is putting and finding out what your dream is and putting that in your heart. That is the work of your business. I said, how frustrated are you? He said, I'm frustrated. I said, are you willing to do something for 30 days? He says, okay. He said he would. I said, then for 30 days, you touch a dream physically for 30 days. If you miss a day, you have to start all over. 30 days in a row, physically touching a dream. Not driving by it, stopping, sitting it, touching it, living in it, whatever else. Every day for 30 days. Are you willing to do that? He said, okay, I will. I said, great. Then tell your upline, and then have your upline let me know. Well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear anything from the guy for about 4 months. But 4 months later, I saw him at a major conference. He saw me, looked at me, and he waved, and I saw him and waved at him as he went across stage as a new gold. 3 months. 7,500. He came off the stage and came right over to me. I said, good job. I said, tell me about it. He says, I don't know what to tell you. I did what you said. He said, I looked at it for 30 days in a row. The next month, we went over, and we've held it for 3 months. Now I'm holding 4 months. We're going right on to platinum and beyond. Here's what I will tell you. If you have the guts to look at your dreams, not only read them every day and night, but go physically touch a dream every day for 30 days, it will change your life. That is the work of this business. Having a purpose, having a vision, having a dream. Okay, here's the joke. I remembered it. I want to die in my sleep like my grandfather did, not yelling and screaming like the passengers in his car. That's my favorite joke. So, turn to the person beside you right now and say your best days are in front of you. Tell them, I believe in you, you can do it. You're a winner. You have what it takes. Now listen up. Let me take the last few minutes and let's drive it home. I want you to have the cars. We want you to have the travel. We want you to have the experiences with your kids. We want you to have your debts paid. We want you to have the experiences of the theme parks. We want you to jump off the Sky Tower. We want you to do all of it. But let me give you a different thought. How many of you know that many times people don't realize how close they are to losing something until it's too late? In the 30-plus years of ministry, I've seen many, many, many marriages where they didn't understand how close they were to losing it until it was too late and they lost it. I've seen people who didn't know how close they were to losing their health until it was too late and they lost it. I've seen parents who didn't know how close they were to seeing their kids be lost to an addiction until it was too late. I know we have our friends from Canada and we're all one in this family, but as I look at this country, the United States was founded as one union, one nation under God. Yet on July 2nd, 1863, that dream of a union, one nation under God, was 1 day away from being lost forever. This country was in a great war called the Civil War. And at that point in time, the South Army had victory after victory after victory, and was gaining momentum. On a hot, humid July day in Gettysburg, Virginia, the two forces of the South and North Armies met. General Lee was the leader of the South Army. The Army had not only had victories up that point, but all historians will basically tell you, had the South Army won that victory at Gettysburg, that would have swung the war over to the South because they would have marched right on to Washington, D.C., and the Union would have been lost forever. A key point in that battle at Gettysburg was a hillside, a ridge, that was held by the 20th Maine Regiment, led by a 34-year-old schoolteacher. They understood that that point was a key to holding that area for the North Army. Here's the reality, though. 5 times rebel forces had charged up the hill, and 5 times they were beaten back down. But as Joshua Chamberlain, the 34-year-old colonel, looked and surveyed what was left, he faced the reality. Half of his regiment was dead. Many of the other soldiers were wounded and could not fight. He was outnumbered 5 to 1. The last attack had taken place literally hand to hand at the wall. There were less than 2 bullets per person left. As he looked downhill, he saw the rebel forces, again outnumbered them 5 to 1, gaining momentum and steam for their next charge up, and he knew the reality of 2 points. He knew that they could not stop it. He knew that. He also knew that if they did not stop it, not only would they lose the ridge, they would lose the battle, which would lose the war, which would lose the nation. What do you do when you are faced with overwhelming odds? When the dream of a house is not big enough? When the dream of a car is not big enough to hold it anymore for you, your purpose? When the dream of Disney is not big enough? There has to be a purpose that goes beyond that, that goes to the inner fiber of who you are, that everything within you, that no matter how old you are, you say, I will never give this up. Let me tell you what it is for Cindy and I. Because you have to know what it is for you. But this is for Cindy and I, and this is the reason that no matter what age we are, we will still be building this business. Here's our purpose. It is to reach a generation with truth about faith, family, finances, and free enterprise. To reach a generation with truth. The second is to raise a generation of leaders who want to make a difference. That is our purpose. That is what drives us. Do we want the car? Absolutely. Do we want the house? Absolutely. But our purpose is what drives us beyond that point. Let's ask ourselves about this generation. I can say this because I've been in youth ministry for 30 years. Let me give you an idea. MTV bought Nickelodeon a few years ago. When they did, here's what they said. Our goal is to own the hearts and minds of America's young people. MTV is spending billions of dollars to own the hearts and minds of this generation. Let me ask you, does the clothing industry spend money to own the hearts and minds of this generation? Does the retail industry, does the drug industry, does the media industry? Yes, they do. Who is going to reach this generation with? So here's the question. Who is it that's going to reach this generation with truth about faith, family, finances, free enterprise? Who's going to reach this generation? Because, friends, here's the reality. Joshua Chamberlain understood that if they lose the point, they lose the battle. They lose the battle. They lose the war. They lose the war. They lose the country. And it doesn't matter what car you drive. It doesn't matter what house you have. It doesn't matter because we've lost what's most important. So what is your purpose that's going to keep you going when you're discouraged, when you're disappointed, when you're defeated? Is it something greater? Because as Joshua Chamberlain faced the situation, he had a choice. Retreat, surrender, or die. That's the choice. Or is there another? And as his soldiers looked at him for instructions, he shot out the first command. Fix your bayonets. We're going to fight, and we're going to die. But we're going to do it for everything we have. They were ready for that. They knew the odds. But then he shouted a second command they did not know was coming. And when he shouted it, they were so shocked by it, they didn't know how to respond, because his second response, his second command was, charge! And they looked at him, what? And he yelled it again, charge! And with that, he jumped over the wall and started running down the hill. The men were so captured by it, if we're going to go, then let's go fighting. And they jumped over the wall and they ran into history, because the 20th Maine Regiment, with hardly any men, in less than 10 minutes overtook the 15th and 47th Alabama, more than 400 men, because as the men down below, the rebel forces, looked and saw these men charging, went, oh my word, there must be reinforcements. There must be another whole thing of army. We can't defend this. And they literally, almost without firing shot, threw all their weapons down. And they were captured. They saved the point. It saved the battle. It turned the war. It saved the nation. Because one man was willing to say, charge. Charge. Here's my question. Where are you, men of honor? Where are you, women of honor? That you are willing not to let a generation go. You are not willing to let this generation be lost. I will charge. I will hold my point in Ohio. I will hold my point in Canada. I will hold my point in Fort Lauderdale. I will hold my point in New York. I will hold my point in South Dakota. I will hold my point. I'm not going to let it go. We are going to charge. Because I'll tell you this right now, that's where I am. That's where your leaders are. We are still going to stand and we're going to charge. And if you wonder where we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20, till God takes our breath, we're going to be charging somewhere going, hi, how are you? I'm doing fantastic, getting better. Hey, where are you from? And one person time, let's take it back. Let's take it back. So I'm wondering, I'm going to stand and take my point. I'm wondering who's going to stand with me and take your point. Who is it? Because this battle, stay standing, I'm done. This battle is fought one night at a time. It's fought one night at a time. And if you're in there with us, then together, let's go reach thousands and let's raise hundreds of leaders. Then once we've done that, let's reach 10,000s of people and let's raise thousands of leaders. Then once we've done that, let's reach 100,000 people and let's raise 10,000 leaders. Once we've done that, let's raise and reach 1 million people and let's raise hundreds of thousands, and then let's raise millions of leaders. And let's turn this thing around and let's change it. We can do it one person at a time. I'm in there with you. We love you with all of our heart.